Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday. Today is the Yitzie of Rabbi Melech Lezinsk. May he be most good to God's Chayesel and get us out of this gullus real soon. Today we are starting with the Chagigah, the last Masechta of Moed. It's only three prakim, and again, our siyum is on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock in my house. Today's shiur is Lili Nishmas, Rush Bas Simcha Cohen, Aaron Nachman Ben Simcha Cohen, Yeshua Marchav Shepsel, Bracha Sabra Shmolib, Emina Moshe Ben Yosef, Man, Hashos Lahav Aliyah. I have good news to share that two of the cholim that we were learning for as a schus, they actually had a refuah shlema, and they are now off the list for a good reason. So Baruch Hashem, Ada Sarah Bas Leah and Chana Pesach Bas Yenta are in good shape, and they are no longer require our tefillas. Hashem should bench them with with um, with good health until 120, and all the other brachos. Baruch Hashem. Before Shlema for Yisrael ben Rachel Leah, Rachel bas Pesel Zelda, Aaron Yisrael ben Risha, and Chaya bas David Bela. Before Shlema b'Sel Shachal Yisrael, and as a schos for Natalia Tzvi ben Rivka Blima, and Shalom Yehuda ben Chayesar Mendel, and as a schos for all our brothers and sisters in Israel and around the world, for 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 to see the Gula Shlema ben Mehir. Amen. Okay, Chagigah is only three program. Talks about the Kol Chagigah. What is a Kol Chagigah? So as you know, on this we have a mitzvah to be Oleh Regal to the base of Mikdash on three times a year: Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Um, and when the pasuk says Shalosh Regalutecha Liba Shana Lo Yiru P'nai Rekam, and you know, and Shlosha Pami B'Shana Yekor Zechutha Espinei Adon Hashem. That we have there are three times a year that we have to celebrate the Hakadosh Baruch Hu, and we cannot appear empty-handed, and we have to come up to the base of Midrash three times a year. So it was required to bring an Oles Regal and a Shamei Chagigah when you went up to the base of Mikdash for Yantav. So the Olas Re'iyah is a burnt offering for appearance. Literally, it was an Olah. It went out to the Mizbeach. It was not eaten by anybody. But the Shamei Chagigah, which is a Korban Shlamim, literally a peace offering of celebration. Parts of it went onto the Mizbeach, and parts of it were eaten by the owners. And we're going to Perek we're going to talk about the rules, these obligations. So here we go. Obviously, you have to deal with Tumah and Tahara. Bias Mikdash, you have to make sure that they are Tahar. And we're going to talk about all that stuff as well. Mr. Shevel, it will be no Gela Maisa in just a couple of weeks on this coming Pesach. Perek Aleph, Mishnah Aleph, and Chagigah, Akol, Chayav, and Beru'iyah. Everyone is obligated to appear before Hashem in the base of Mikdash on the Shlosh Regalim, on Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Chutz, Micheres, Shota V'Katan, except for a deaf mute, an insane person, and a minor, because these people are not legally responsible for their actions and are therefore pater from all mitzvahs. And a deaf person is, as well as a mute, are specifically excluded by the Torah from the shiur. The insane person is Habi Derabanan. Betumtum, Beandroginus, Benashtim, Vavadim, She'enam Nesuchrarim. Also, pater are a person who a tumtum is you cannot tell what gender they are because their ervas are not visible, and androgynous is a hermaphrodite where it has um, both simani zacher and simani nekeva. So, um, as a real suffix, they, they have different halachas, the tumtum and the druginus, and women and slaves who have not yet been freed, they um, the chiyuv to appear, they are all putter from being Oleh Regal because the chiyuv was said only for males, and anyone who's female or partially female or possibly female um, are they are chayiv only for halachas that apply only to females. So if you're not 100% male or female, then you are pater from being Oleh Regal. Chagigah v'asuma v'achole v'azaken v'mish she'en yachol lalos b'raglov, as well as um, the lame and the blind and the sick and the elderly, and someone who's unable to go up to the base of Midrash by foot, because you have to actually walk up the Harabayas. So barefoot, no one's wearing any shoes or boots or sneakers on the Harabayas, so you have to walk up barefoot. So if you are not able to do so, then they are all pater from the mitzvah of being Oleh Regal. Ezo Katan. Okay, so now who is this minor that is exempt from being Oleh Regal even with his father? Because we know that during a hakel, they used to bring up even the young kids. So what happened over here? So Kosh in a Yachal Lirchov Al Ksefov Shalav Relalas Mirushalayim the Harabayas the Rebbe Shammai. Any child who cannot ride on his father's shoulders and go up with him from Yerushalayim to the Harabayas, that's according to the Beis Shammai. So if he's not able to sit on his father's shoulders, he is not going up to the Oleh Regal. The Beis says any child who cannot hold his father's hand and go up with him by foot from Yerushalayim to the Beis Hamikdash, so it's a little bit more machmir. Instead of running on his shoulders, just hold my hand. Because it says 3 festivals, 3 pilgrimage festivals, which implies that one must be able to walk up to the Beis Hamikdash court, to the chutzner of the Beis Hamikdash. So even an adult who is pater because he cannot walk up, so a child who can't walk up is not yet old enough to be trained to do this mitzvah. So chinuch does not apply to a child who cannot walk himself, according to the Mishnah. Perek Mishnah base. The Beis Shammai says that the olas re'iyah must be worth at least 2 silver ma'os, and the Shama Chagigah must be worth at least 1 silver ma. So what's a ma? So a ma is the smallest silver coin used in the times of the Mishnah. It's equal to 1/6 of a dinar, and that's enough to buy a small lamb or goat. At least back in the day. The Beis Hillel says that's the opposite, that the olas re'iyah needs to be worth 1 silver ma, and the Shama Chagigah must be worth at least 2 silver ma's. Since the Chagigah must be divided into 3 parts, 1 for the mizbeach, 1 for the kohanim, and 1 for the owner and his guests, then it must be a larger and therefore more expensive animal. But the Ola is going up to the mizbeach, so it doesn't need to be so big. Mishnah Gimel. So Now I'm going to talk about which karbanos are brought on Yantiv itself and which can only be brought on Cholamoid, as well as other karbanos that were brought that can be purchased with Ma'aser Sheni. Because Ma'aser Sheni is has to be eaten in Yerushalayim, so you can use Ma'aser Sheni when you're being Oleh Regal into Yerushalayim. So the Mishnah Gimel, Olas b'Moed, voluntary. A voluntary korban olah can be brought during Chol Moed, not a yontif itself, since it's not required for, for that day. Only the korban olah of yontif can be brought at yontif, but a stam korban olah that you might be chayav for something else cannot be brought on yontif. It is going to be brought on a different day. Balas menachulin, and the olas re'iyah must be brought from chulin money that did not have any other kedusha, and the karbanos that the olas re'iyah, which are chiyuv, they cannot be brought from sheni money. However, shlamim that are Shamim Simcha, which is not a shiur, they can be brought from sheni funds. So now we're going to talk about whether or not a Chagigah can be brought from sheni funds or not. So Yom Tov Harishon Shel Pesach, regarding the Chagigah that is brought on the first day of Pesach, the Shammai Omrim Min HaChulin. Shammai says it may be brought only from Chulin funds. And Abisel Omrim Min HaMaiser, but Abisel says it can be brought even from sheni funds. Only a Chagigah that is a chiyuv must be brought from Chulin, but additional Chagigahs which are not a chiyuv can be brought from sheni. Right. So the question is, which Chagigah are we talking about? We're talking about the Chagigah that came on your Daled with the Kohen Pesach, or are we talking about the Kohen Pesach that was brought on Tezvav? Because there are two different Kohen Chagigahs. So it seems that the one that is brought on your Daled together with the Kohen Pesach, that is the Chiyuv, and therefore, that is not the Chiyuv. That can be brought from Sheni, but the Kohen Chagigah that you bring on the first day of Pesach on Tesvav, that is the Chiyuv, and that cannot be brought from Sheni. But the Chagigah that they're eating together with the Kohen Pesach is not, according to the Mefarshim, that can be brought from Sheni money. Okay, Mishnah Dalet, going back to the Shamei Simcha. We know the pasuk says in verses that you should rejoice before Hashem, your God, for 7 days, and the Gemara says, "Ein simcha ela b'basar." There's no simcha except through eating meat of a korban. Therefore, the mitzvah to rejoice on the Yom Tovim is fulfilled by eating the meat of a korban in the Beis Hamikdash or in the Harabayas. So Yisrael Yotzidei Chalasa, Yisraelim who are not Kohanim can fulfill their obligation of rejoicing on the Chagim. B'nedarim, Unadar was by eating the meat of karbanos that were for vows or other gift offerings that were all covered shlamim. Of a ma'aser behema, and the meat of the ma'aser behema. These are the animals. These are the karbanos that are whose meat is permitted to the non-kohan. Obviously, they cannot eat the chatas. Okay, but kohanim v'chatos, v'shamos. In addition, the Kohanim, they can fulfill their chiyah by eating the portions of the chatas and the arsham korbanos. They each get a piece of that. Of bechor and the meat of the bechor, the firstborn offerings. Of bechazav v'shok, and of the breast and thigh of the karban shlamim, because they get those manas kahuna. All these portions of meat that are given to the Kohanim, they can fulfill their chiyuv of eating meat ayantiv through them. However, even Kohanim, they cannot fulfill their obligation to eat meat ayantiv by eating the meat of burnt offerings, nor by eating the karban mincha, the mincha offerings. You're not so. Being a vegan in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, especially in Yantif, is a big no-no. So you didn't find any Kohanim that were vegans and they can't eat meat. That was part of the job. Sorry out there to the vegans, or really not sorry, but and also the people nowadays who have this idea in their head that they can eat milchiks for Yantif. You might do that this man is but that's not really in line with the Zeichel Churban, where Ein Simcha Ela B'Basar. Okay, Mishnah Hey. Mishi Yeshlo Ochel Merubim. Someone who has many people, many household members who are eating the meals with him. Unachasim Watim and few possessions, limited funds with which to buy karbanos. Maybe shlamim merubim velos mevatos. That he should bring many shlamim to feed his family members, and a few olos for iya, which are completely burnt on the mizbech and not a source of food. Buy the animals to feed your family. Since we have a mitzvah to eat the meat of karbanos on Yantiv, a person has many people to feed for limited resources, that they should spend more money on the karbanos that are eaten than on the karbanos that are completely burnt. On the other hand, one who has a lot of money, a lot of possessions, and a few people eating, a lot of money, small family, which kind of makes sense because you don't have all the chovos to spend on all the large family members. So he should do the reverse. Maybe olos merubos v'shlamim muatim. He should bring many olos and few shlamim. And that way they can fulfill the chiyuv of each kamanas yado to every man according to what his hand can give, which that teaches us that the more resources he has, then the more offerings he should bring, based on what's available. Zeh v'zeh muat. Right. So one has fewer possessions than. So if he has limited resources and he has limited people in his household, so he does not need the extra shlamim, and he cannot afford the extra olos. Concerning this guy, this case, that's what was said in Mishnah Beis, that he brings one olos that's worth one silver ma, and one shaman Chagigah worth two silver mas. Okay, zev merubim. But if a person has lots of possessions, lots of wealth, and he has lots of people, so concerning him, it said that every man according to his hands giving, according to the blessing that Hashem, your God, has given you, that he should bring. That it means that he should bring many olos and many shlamim and do it the best that he can. So there's different scenarios for different people according to the Mishnah. Okay, Mishnah Vav. Mishalo Chag Yontav Rishon Shal someone who did not bring his his karbanos for the yontif on the first day of Sukkot. Chagigah is kol a regal that he can still bring them on any other day of Sukkot. The Yom Tov ha'achron shel even on the last day of Sukkot, which is Shmini Atzeres. So even though Shmini Atzeres is considered to be a separate yontif, in many respects, he can still bring his korban shlamim and the Oleh for Sukkot, even on Shmini Atzeres. However, if the entire Sukkot passed, and he did not bring his kabbanos, he is no longer responsible for it. He can no longer bring those kabbanos of the yantif. On this it says a pasuk from Koheles, which you actually read on Sukkot. Maos or Yuchal the Sakin, Eliskam the Chisron, or Yuchal Manos. That a crooked thing cannot be straightened, and that which is missing cannot be counted. Someone who fails to perform a mitzvah within the proper time cannot be counted as having fulfilled the mitzvah by performing it after its time. Yeah. Although I think la halacha we see that you cannot bring those korbanos on Ashmi Atzeres, but according to the Mishnah you could. And two more to go. Rabbi Shimon ben Menashe, this is Mishnah Zion. Rabbi Shimon ben Menashe says, "Ezu uvas Shem yachal liskon." Who is a crooked one who cannot be straightened? Zeh haba ala erva v'holy menu mamzer. This refers to one who cohabited with an erva, someone who's also to him, and produced a mamzer. Since the existence of the mamzer serves as a constant reminder of the transgression he committed, the sinner cannot be completely cleansed of his sin through tshuva, and that is an example of a crooked one who cannot be straightened. So if you want to say that the pasuk refers to someone who steals or robs, then the ganav is able to return what he stole and can thereby be straightened. He can be totally cleansed from his sin through tshuva. The only one who cannot be straightened is a mamzer. Shimon ben Yochai, Shimon ben Yochai says, "Ein karmo me'uvas ela mishe hayim esukam b'tchila b'nat b'nes. We do not refer to someone as crooked unless he was straight at first and then became crooked. Ve'ezel, so who is this? Zeh Talmud Chacham HaPorish min Torah. This is a Talmud Chacham who had abandoned the Torah. Originally, he was straight because he was immersed in the Talmud Torah and doing mitzvahs. And now, by abandoning Torah, he had made himself crooked. And although he can repent and go back to his studies, the time he was can never be made up. So a guy like Acher, who is the greatest of the great, Lisha ben Leviah, then he went Acherei Pardes, and he went insane. Then he might fall into this category. But when you're wasting time, it's a terrible thing to waste time, even though we all do it. But got to make the most of your time. Okay, and then the last mission for today, Mishnah Ches. Okay, now we're talking about let's see here. Okay, halachas that were learned Baal Peh for Moshe Ben Moshe Sinai that was never written down in Torah Shebiksav. It was only written down in Torah Shebal Peh, which was supposed to be Baal Peh until much later on in history when it was actually written down because people were forgetting the Torah Shebal Peh. So, Mishnah Ches, Heter Nedarim Park of Avia. The halachas that governing the release of vows by an outstanding sage or based on a three, they float in the air. What does that mean? They have no firm basis in the Torah Shebiksav to support them. The psukim behind them are quite vague, and if not for the Torah Shebal Peh, they would not be known. Hilchos Shabbos, Chagigahs, V'Hame'ilos, the laws of Shabbos, the obligation to bring a korban Chagigah, and the obligation to bring a korban Me'ilah, which are brought when Kodesh items are mistakenly used for secular purposes. Harei hein kehararim hatuyim b'shara. They are like mountains suspended by a hair. Sheharei mikra ma'at v'halachas merubos. They have very few Torah references that support them, and yet they have numerous halachas. Shabbos, you have Shabbos mentioned throughout the Torah, but you don't have any halachas from Shabbos mentioned today. All the halachas Shabbos are all derived from the Torah Shebal Peh, relating back to the Mishnah. It's very, very vague. The following list over here are those that have like general concepts, but the individual points are not listed in the Torah. They learned from Torah Shebal Peh as well. Adinin, monetary laws. We say like nefesh tachas nefesh, ayin tachas ayin, shein tachas shein. We don't go and knock out a guy's tooth because he's knocking someone else's tooth. We don't take an eye for an eye literally. Those are all monetary laws. Those are all learned in Baba Kama, Baba Masiyah, Baba Basra, and Ezekiel, which we'll get to in a few months. Avodos and the laws of the Karbanos, Hataharos, Vataros, the laws of Tum and Tahara, Rayos, and the laws of forbidden relationships. Yesh Lahan Amash Yismachu, they have sukkim in the Torah. Hen Gilfi Torah. Both these, the first list, which are very vague in the Torah, Shebiksav, and the other ones which have more support, they are all fundamentals of Torah. They all have an equal stature, even the ones that are not written explicitly. Okay, that is all for today. We'll see you tomorrow for Perek base. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us.